chunky chug 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 frothing demon hellspawn to a little 4-year-old girl with pigtails. No one can deny the impact that these bass lines have. Welcome back. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different and possibly something a little contentious, because that always goes well on YouTube, doesn't it? I've always found the System of a Down and Rage are quite similar in a lot of ways. Not to say that, you know, they sound alike, because realistically they don't, but they do have quite a few parallels. You know, they have same amount of members, both sing about political themes, both pretty heavy without being too extreme. There's a few little parallels that I see between them, and so I thought it would be an interesting exercise to pit them against each other in very specific ways, and in a points-based system, see who is the victor. Obviously this is very subjective. I do love both Rage and System. I love one a little bit more than the other though, and you'll find out which one by the end, I'm sure. I don't want this to be a case of me ripping on either band or any member or anything like that, because that's not the point of this. It's just a bit of fun. And as I said, I love both of these bands, so this really isn't me saying that one band is objectively better than the other, because that would be a ridiculous thing to do. I'm just having a bit of fun, and hopefully you'll find this fun as well. I've been listening to both bands for the last 20 years, easily. Anytime I listen to System, I'm immediately in a good mood, and anytime I listen to Rage, I'm also immediately in a good mood. Both work very well in the gym, both work very well at a party. There's no real criticism I have of either band, overall. I want that to be absolutely clear, so I don't want anyone in the comments going, oh, you're just hating on such and such. That's not what I'm doing. I thought I'd divide this into different sections of comparison, going over different elements of each band, and basically seeing who comes out the victor. So let's begin.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Starting with the most basic, their names.
Round one.
Rage Against the Machine, it expresses defiance against corporate America and the status quo, which I can get behind. But it's kind of specific in limiting the type of topics they can discuss in their music, really. But it is very direct and to the point, as is their music. And with System of a Down, a little more esoteric, which also matches their sound and the topics that they cover, a little bit more diversity in their discography. And again, a vague hint of rebellion against systematic corruption, which again is something I can totally get behind. But it also kind of means nothing at all, like System of a Down. Doesn't really mean anything, for positive or for negative. It does lend a little bit more to imagination than Rage Against the Machine, but I think overall Rage Against the Machine is the better name. Point to Rage. Overall sound.
Round two.
Rage's sound is great. It's heavy, funky, menacing, inspired by like Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, for example, with, you know, hip hop just thrown in there for good measure. It does all blend together to make a sound that really no other band sounds like, although there is of course Audioslave. And Prophet of Rage. And while their sound has stood the test of time, it is quite limited, I think. One could argue that they're quite samey. Like they have one lane that they zoom down, like at 100 miles an hour, with no one else, but it is only that one lane that they zoom down. So let's keep that in mind. Now, System sound is much more diverse, incorporating Armenian influences, which also gives them a very unique sound, and they get away with much more sonic diversity. You know, they can go super crazy heavy and chaotic and also be kind of somber and mellow. more so than Rage, I think. And to me that counts for a lot. Any band that can have a specific sound, but also play around with that sound and do different things, to me that means more to me. And they kind of lack the same kind of innovation that a lot of Rage Against the Machine music has, but that chaos that they have makes up for that in my mind. They also have a huge advantage over Rage in that they have not just one but two very iconic and recognizable singers. Not only that, but when those two singers' voices harmonize, it's just a perfect blend that it's like those voices were made for each other. Point to System. Discographies.
Round 3.
I'm going to be quite biased here, honestly, because for me, System's discography is just perfect from start to finish. It kind of evolves from the first album to the last album. There is a change there, but it's still very consistent. I've always felt like, because they went on hiatus, I always felt like we were leading somewhere, like we were headed in an we were like halfway through an evolution, and it's a huge shame we never got anything more aside from those two songs a couple of years ago. Here's hoping for more. And Rage is very consistent, but shorter, and by the end of their discography it kind of feels like they're running out of ideas. Audio Slave sounds very similar instrumentally, as does Prophets of Rage, and it sounds great, don't get me wrong, it sounds great, but I feel like we've already heard this since the early to mid 90s. Point to System. Okay, this I'm going to call the isolated instruments comparison. And forgive the lack of fidelity with these isolated tracks, it's the best I could find in 15 minutes.
Round 4.
Let's start with drums, with John from System. And now, Brad Wilk. In my mind, they are pretty close. In the grand scheme of things, both fairly simple overall. Brad has some beats that you can hear the entire song just by hearing the drums, and the drums sound is immediately recognizable as being the drums from Rage Against the Machine, no doubt. But I think John has more flair and a bit more subtle attention to detail in System songs, which serves more dynamically in the song and kind of propels the structure of System of a Down songs in a way that Brad's drumming just doesn't. They're basically hip-hop beats with occasional mix-ups here and there because of John's very subtle attention to detail and the little things he does that only he does. Point to John. Now on to bass, and let's start with Chavo from System.
Round 5.
And now Tim from Rage. Okay, here it's not even close. There's no contest here. The bass in Rage is what largely drives the songs, and arguably Rage's entire sound. And when it isn't slamming you in the face, it's holding back like a raging dog on a chain, waiting to be unleashed. And while it could be said that Tim's bass lines follow the same scales for the most part, limiting Rage's creativity in some ways. It does sounds very similar to Audioslave. No one can deny the impact that these bass lines have. And Chavo's bass lines, and I hate to say it, almost sound like a weak afterthought. Super simple, not inherently a bad thing, but in the context of system songs, they work. They serve their purpose. They do what they are supposed to do. They fit in. They're fine. But you know, it's a little more than that. Just filling in what 6-string guitar can't do. And they're kind of sloppy too, which is a criticism and a compliment, because that sloppiness adds to the chaotic nature of System of a Down's music, which is good. But I gotta give it to Tim. Let's do guitars now. And let's start with Darren.
Round 6.
Now Tom. This is the trickiest so far for me, and I'll explain why. I love Darren's tone. From the first album to the last System album, the tone does shift, but I love all of it. It's really like, it hits me here, you know? And I love the Armenian flair in the notation and the melodies and stuff, which does give System that unique ethnic sound, which literally no other band that I've ever listened to has. And again, adding the diversity that System has. He goes from like pretty dreamlike melodies to chunky chug 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 It never gets old. It really never ever gets old. And the same can be said about Scars on Broadway, Darren's solo band.
Everybody dance when you wanna dance, when you wanna dance, you will get in.
No other guitarist sounds like Darren in his setup, his tuning and his his amps and all his effects and everything. He has a very specific sound, and I really, really like it. But Tom Morello is Tom Morello. Like Tim, his riffs are fun and funky while being heavy and like earworms. It's undeniable. And I can't think of many guitarists of Rage's era that were weirder and more innovative than Tom Morello. And I love weirdness and innovativeness. I know it's probably an unpopular opinion, but for different reasons, I kind of rate them both equally for completely different reasons. And I think Tom just inches ahead because of his creativity and all the bizarre stuff that occurred to him back in Rage's discography. But only just. Vocals. Let's start with Serge.
Round 7.
Life is a waterfall. We're one in the river and one again after the fall. Aerials in the sky. Aerials in the sky. Was fashion the reason why they were there? Waiting for my girl.
What the hell is the bar?
Barbarisms by Barbras with pointed heels. La 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 la. Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time. Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time.
Blast off! It's party time! And we don't live in a fascist nation!
Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? Why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor?
And now Zach.
The movie ran through me, the glamour subdue me, the tabloid untie me. Coffins on the corner, the jury sleepless. We found your weakness. With precision, you feed me my witness. I'm hungry, your temple, it calls me. Who controls the past now? Controls the future. Who controls the present now? Controls the past. Transmission, Third World War, third round. A decade of the weapon of sound above ground. Cut the cord. Lights out. Guerrilla radio. Contact to hijack the frequencies. Blocking the beltway, move on DC. Oh, hell. Can't stop us now.
For me, this is, again, absolutely no contest. Zach does what is needed for Rage songs. You know, his hip-hop style, he has such a swagger about him that fits the hip-hop styling that Rage has perfectly. His spiteful, bitter rage is always present, and you can really feel it as he's snarling through gritted teeth. He's got great energy, great hype man, great front man, and as a poet, he's perfect. But, and this is a big but, to me, Serj Tankian, on the other hand, has one of the most unique, powerful, distinct, bizarre, multifaceted, energetic voices of all time. And his dynamic range, being able to go from sounding like a frothing demon hellspawn to a little 4-year-old girl with pigtails, just switching on a dime. Only Serj can do that. That kind of range, I think, could only really be attempted by maybe Mike Patton. And even then, Mike Patton, I don't feel has the same explosive range that Serj has. Serj all the way. Okay, and now to be objective, because I feel like this has been pretty balanced so far. So to be more objective about their legacy, let's say, I've found their awards and nominations on Wikipedia of both Rage and System, and we're going to go through them briefly. I'm only going to go through the ones that each band won. I'll keep it brief.
Final round.
Rage Against the Machine, 1997, won Best Metal Performance. 2001, they won Best Hard Rock Performance. 2010, won Heroes of the Year. 2008, they were awarded the Kerrang Awards Hall of Fame. 2010, Christmas #1. Do you remember that? 2023, they finally got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yeah, in 2021, the UK official charts company announced that Killing in the Name had been named as the UK's favourite Christmas #1 of all time in a poll commissioned to celebrate the 70th official Christmas #1 race. That's pretty cool. Now, System of a Down. System of a Down won the 1999 Kerrang Awards Best International Live Act. 2003 California Music Awards Outstanding Group Award, they won that. 2005 Metal Storm Awards Best Alternative Metal Album with Mesmerize, they won that. MTV Europe Music Awards Best Alternative, they won that. 2006 Grammy Awards Best Hard Rock Performance with BYOB. Again, 2006 the Echo Awards Best International Rock / Alternative Group. They won that with Mesmerize, the album. MTV U Woody Awards Greatest Social Impact in the same year with Question. And 2015 I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, I'll put it on screen. Some kind of Institute Award, Wake Up the Souls Tour. I don't even know what that is. I'm guessing it's a tour. They won that as well. So let's count these. Rage Against the Machine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. System of a Down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh. I know awards, ceremonies, and all that kind of stuff doesn't really mean anything. But you got to give it to System. They have more than Rage do. So, how do I feel? Which is my favorite? Anyone that knows me will know the answer to this, because one of these two bands is in my top favorite bands of all time. My favorite, for me personally, is System of a Down. I love System of a Down more than most bands in the world. I do love Rage too, but System of a Down I connect with on more of an emotional, deep level than Rage. Rage is fun. Rage is absolute fun. I love them, but I don't love them as much as System of a Down. There's very few bands I love as much as System of a Down. But I can acknowledge that I think, technically speaking, Rage are the more competent musicians, but also System are incredibly good musicians too. It's really hard. They both have such great strengths, but mostly in completely different areas. It's kind of weird. So, System wins. It's no surprise to me because, I mean, number one, I made this video, so and I know how I feel about System, so it comes as no surprise that they would win. And that's not to say that I don't love Rage, because I do. And again, this isn't matter of fact. This isn't, you know, now System won, so Rage Against the Machine must be deleted from history. It's just a bit of fun. And I hope you had fun watching. They're just two incredibly good bands that both deserve our time. Thank you very much for watching. I've not done a video like this before. Maybe I will in future. If you have any bands that you think would pair up well together in a one-on-one fight, then leave them in the comments and maybe I'll consider them for a future video. But I've still not thought of how to end videos yet, so I'm just gonna say, go away.